Are you a movie buff? Do you love dissecting and analyzing your favorite films? Look no further than the Projection Booth podcast. Join host Mike White and a bevy of guest experts as they explore the history, themes, and legacy of cult classics, obscure gems, and mainstream hits. Join us every week for a unique and engaging look at your favorite movies. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and tune in to the Projection Booth podcast, available on all major podcast platforms.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-Criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hello there, I'm Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the cult horror anthology series Tales from the Crypt that originally aired on HBO from 1989 to 1996.
Now, on each of these podcasts, we're going to be doing 2 episodes from the television series, and along the way, we're going to have some bonus episodes covering some Tales ephemera, like a kids' cartoon series and a game show, and some movies, and some other tangentially related Tales material.
A game show that I would like to point out is essentially a ripoff of Legends of the Hidden Temple. But
Sweet. Let's play.
when we get there, we get there. There's no Olmec, but there is the Crypt Keeper, so...
That's better.
That is better. Agreed. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 7 and 8, The Sacrifice, and For Cryin Out Loud. And we actually have an interview with Lee Arenberg that we are going to play after we talk about For Cryin Out Loud.
I am Newt, bladder of cobra, and whisker of a rat. Oh, hi, kiddies. I was just rustling up a sickening snack for a ghastly guest. Let's see. I need the blood of a sacrificed goat. Whoops. It's got to be a virgin goat. Guess you're off the hook, Nellie. Tonight's story is about a different kind of sacrifice. A sacrifice made for love.
All right, so The Sacrifice aired May 15th, 1990. It is directed by Richard Greenberg, written by Ross Thomas, stars Kim Delaney, Kevin Kilner, and Don Hood, along with everyone's favorite nasty villain man, Michael Ironsides. The episode centers around Kevin Kilner as an insurance salesman who murders an obnoxious tycoon to get his seductive wife and fortune, only later to be blackmailed by his rival and boss, Michael Ironsides. So, Mike, what did you think of this turd of an episode?
Another motherfucking love triangle.
And a bad one at that.
3 in a row. What is going on? I did not like it.
I mean, it's an easy episode to not like. Not only is the payoff so insulting in a way that feels like the people who make this show, and not even the people who make the show, but Ross Thomas and Richard Greenberg think that the audience are fucking morons, to the fact that it's just, again, like you said, it's another love triangle in a series of episodes, now 3 in a row of love triangles, and it doesn't do anything different.
No, worse than that, it feels lifted from Alfred Hitchcock Presents or something. There is no supernatural angle to this, which is fine. You can do that. But then there's no real sort of eerie or creepy aspect to it either. It's just a hard-boiled, like, Dashiell Hammett knockoff. It's... I could not figure out for the life of me why they chose to do this. And let's talk about the direction for a second, just because it was directed by Richard Greenberg, who didn't direct a lot, but if you see in a lot of 80s movies, they're a visual effects company, R/Greenberg. That's Richard Greenberg's company. So he made his entire career on creating special effects, and there's none in this episode. I was expecting, once I saw his name, that we were going to have some crazy flights of fancy or something, but there's just nothing. I will say that I did like the performances. I didn't hate the episode entirely, particularly Don Hood as the sort of millionaire who is married to Kim Delaney. Like, I think he did a really good job. Michael Ironside, I love Michael Ironside, but he was just kind of okay here.
Well, he also doesn't show up until 2/3 of the way into the episode. It almost feels like 2 different episodes. And that's my biggest issue, is there's not... It's an episode that feels longer than the normal runtime, because it almost feels like 2 separate episodes.
Yeah, this one does feel like it goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah, with Michael Ironside showing up, and it's like, okay, so where is this going? This character has been mentioned. Jerry has been mentioned before, and then all of a sudden here he is, and he's just this kind of creep who's, it turns out at the end is not doing all the bad stuff that Gloria claims he is, which is fine, because the stuff that she's claiming he's doing is just like so reprehensible in a very Tales from the Crypt way. But it turns out that it's all a sham to get Kevin Kilner to kill himself. And it's just, by the end of the episode, you're like, okay, so the payoff was that Kevin Kilner's character was too nice of a guy, except he murders people, so why should we feel sorry for him? Yeah. And he's like intimated that he's done this before. So it's like, why the fuck should I feel bad for him being an idiot and killing himself?
Yeah, now, not too surprisingly, this is actually a shock suspense story adaptation. Shock Suspense Stories number 10, written by Al Feldstein with art by Jack Kamen. Jack Kamen is the preeminent artist on the old EC Comics line, and if you read the comic, it's real good. But they adapted it pretty straight, like, which we've talked about at length that they need to sort of deviate more from. But for if you haven't seen it, the episode effectively is Kevin Kilner is an insurance agent who comes to this multi-millionaire's place to sign him up for life insurance, and he falls in love with the guy's wife, and then she sort of entices him to kill the guy so that they can have the money together, and then he throws the guy off a balcony, which is somehow witnessed by a guy who is obsessed with her, who happens to be Kevin Kilner's boss, who happens to live across from them and had been photographing it. If you don't know you're being set up after that particular web, you kind of deserve to take sleeping pills and kill yourself. I should point out that in the comic book, here's where it sort of deviates. And, hey, by the way, spoilers after the fact. In the show, he writes out a confession, and then he takes a bunch of sleeping pills, and then Kim Delaney shows up and burns the confession so that the police won't know anything about it, even though it exonerates her. In the comic, it was exactly the opposite, where he did kill himself, but he also writes the letter, and then she takes it like, look, I've got a letter for the police. Now we're all set.
I didn't understand why she burned the letter. It actually almost is making sense. It makes 0 sense.
0 sense at all. Like, so... The Michael Ironside character shows up and he's blackmailing them, and the idea is that he wants her to be with him every night, and the idea is that he's sort of molesting her in all these like reprehensible ways, and she shows up one day and she's like, oh, he hired homeless people to watch us, and I'm thinking like, okay, I guess that's pretty bad, but maybe if you had been having to be forced to have sex with the homeless people, that would have been a little bit worse. But anyway, regardless, it turns out it's all a sham, that they were in on it from the get-go, and they're just turning it on him so he'll kill himself so that they can run off together and have the money. And all I could think is, why didn't once he pushed him over the balcony, she say, no, I don't want to be with you. See ya. And you're a murderer, and I'll tell people. I mean, what's this elaborate 9-month ruse?
It's called a plot for this show, and it's really bad, is what it is.
Yeah, man. Like
it's lazy. It's just lazy, and it feels like, and we're only in season 2 of the show, and it feels like a filler episode. It's like, why are we wasting an episode on this lackluster story? But at the same time, Don Hood was in Fletch Lives.
Well, all is forgiven.
All is forgiven. Don Hood was in Fletch Lives. And he was in Alien Nation. He was in...
All right, fine. I'll give it to him for Alien Nation.
Well, we all know how much you love Fletch Lives. And if you don't know why Mike loves Fletch Lives so much...
You're such a son of a bitch.
It's a long story, but let's just say Mike loves Fletch Lives a lot.
It's my favorite.
It is his favorite.
I'm looking at the poster right now in my office.
It is his favorite film next to Nothing But Trouble.
Oh, I do love Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah, that movie is about as big a Chevy Chase turd as Fletch Lives, unfortunately. But I mean, again, back to this admitted, I don't understand why this show and the creators of the show allowed anyone to focus on the love triangle episodes, or focus on the love triangle stories from the original source material, because they're not good.
Yeah, like who was at the helm of this ship this season where they were like, yeah, we want to do this story. And they're like, okay. And they're like, another set of writers come in and they're like, we want to do this story. And like, yep, go ahead. And then a third shows up and is like, yeah, we want to do this one. It's like, you do realize these are all the same story. And the first one was the best. So stop immediately.
Yeah. But again, it feels like they ran out of ideas, but it's like you have like a breadth of material and you didn't really use it. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's not terribly surprising.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Honestly, though, it is kind of surprising, only because they came in such quick succession.
Well, it's also surprising it's this early on, because I don't remember this many love triangle episodes this early in the show's run.
Me either. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I blocked it or something. But like, this is clearly wrong.
I completely agree. So,
I mean, can we get a werewolf in here somewhere?
Well, and then you're gonna get a werewolf in a love triangle-esque episode, and we're not gonna like it very much either. So, that one's coming up.
God damn love triangles.
Right. So I'm going to say skip. Total skip.
Yeah, I mean, skip it. I don't think this is as bad as The Thing from the Grave. I could probably watch this again. Like I said, if this was not called Tales from the Crypt, if this had been an Alfred Hitchcock Presents or Tales from the Unexpected or something, I would have been like, that was okay. But Jesus Christ, enough already. Skip this one.
Yep, I completely agree. We'll play our interview that we did with Lee Arenberg, who's actually in the next episode we're talking about for Cryin Out Loud. And when we get back, we'll talk about the episode. Had you watched Tales from the Crypt before you were on the show?
I was familiar with the comic books, the old ones, the George Gaines. I mean, it was. I had seen Tales from the Crypt, the movie. It was an anthology movie that came out. I don't know. It's not late 70s, because I remember being scared by it. It was some scary stuff. So I was aware, but I didn't. I don't even know if I had HBO at the time. I forget. Maybe my parents did at the time. I forget. So. Yeah, I probably hadn't seen the actual show itself, but yeah, oh man, it was an exciting time to land that sucker.
And I mean, you had, in that episode, you interact with Katie Seagal, who's gone on to be in, Sons of Anarchy. Obviously, you get to be on screen with Iggy Pop, who, I mean, don't even really have to extol the
and Katie had just started, I think, when we did that show, it might have been the first year of Married with Children, too. So she had, yeah.
For my generation, she's Sons of Anarchy, right? For everybody else that's Married with Children, and
no, I think she's both, really, truly,
or even the nerds is Futurama. So myself incled. So
she's mega. I think she was a backup singer with Bette Midler. I mean, she's badass. She's an awesome person. What a great person to have to play that with, and I was a young dude. That was a good break I was still in my 20s when I did that part, So, it was lucky they hired me. They fought for me. Seaman and Price fought for me, against some way bigger names for sure. And one of the biggest things I remember is it was like we did rehearsals or whatever. And then Monday, 7 a.m., the first shot of the day, like all the big cheeses are there, or at least a couple of them, like, Dick Donner or Walter Hill, whoever, they were there. I didn't see them, but they were lurking. And literally, like, people are nervous because they're on set. And the very first thing at 7 was like a rehearsal of me opening the office door and staring at her cleavage, and literally from the first rehearsal, just my double take on rehearsal of me staring at that beautiful cleavage cracked the whole set up. And then 7:05, it's like, bye, Walter, bye, Dick, bye. They were happy, and everyone was like, and I was like, well, I just was like, hey, he's just here to fire me if I suck, come on, that's always the pressure, that first day or till you get something in the can. But like I said, I had to carry the whole piece. So, they had an investment, in my performance. So thank God I'm like I said, that's why I told you in the other part of the interview about, our job is that's what it's all about. Action is your moment. You got to be vulnerable and deliver the goods every time when they, that you can, at least more than you don't. Right. So,
I mean, what was, this is the second season of the show. So the show was picking up steam. I mean, the first or second episode of the second season had Arnold Schwarzenegger directing it. So, the show is quickly picking up steam. What was the kind of on-set atmosphere like filming, your episode?
Wow. The on-set atmosphere, for me, it was a lot of focus, to be honest. Different to say than my role in Freaked. I had a lot of stuff to kind of remember, and I had a lot of, there was technical considerations. Once it's revealed that the conscience is talking to me, my ear is always in a shot. So you're focused. That was my main. Of course I had fun. I'm playing a rock guy surrounded by the amazing, when we did the Iggy scenes, and in his band were the Spider Middleman was my buddy from the Chucky Weiss Goddamn Liars band that I used to hang with. Hunt and Tony Sales were in there, really great guys, sons of Soupy Sales. That backup band was Righteous, cool dude. So that was a great talk. There was, great, obviously my co-stars, but, it's always fun, dude. that's how I work. I can't work and I don't like to be uptight. I got to be loose, especially for something like that where I'm like, I'm going for it. That character was wacky. He was insane. He'd lost his mind. His conscience had driven him insane. And he confesses to a murder that he could get away with, basically. So, in a very dramatic way, putting his head through a speaker and the whole deal, So that was a very focused would be my main kind of note of like what I remember from 1990. I was really charged up too. Like that was my thing. It's like that's what I always wanted. That's what I lived for. As an actor, my creative life was an opportunity like that. So, and every opportunity. So that was very, very exciting time for me. So I had to stay focused to be able to deliver, which luckily I did. My outfits and, absolutely. It was very much of the time. And as opposed to some of the other episodes with bigger star names, I was a total unknown, basically. So it gives an audience a chance to kind of like buy into it, because they don't know me yet, that audience, That was really one of the first shows I ever did where people would stop me. That started my sort of celebrity, was that show. First time ever, like on an airplane, I was traveling back east with my mom to go see her mom. And literally there was a Secret Service detail, an advanced detail that had been with, I guess, Reagan, and then we're flying back to the D.C. area. And they were on the plane, and they wanted pictures with me, like on the airplane. That was my first, foray into pictures with fans. And I was like, that was cool, yeah.
Did you get to work with Sam Kinison at all on set, or was he...
No, I did not, actually. I had just say his name was Bill Applebaum. Bill was a comedian, and Bill was off camera for me. So but I knew Sam's work, and I was familiar with his comedy, and I did eventually get to know him through, they used to, in the Comedy Store in Hollywood. That was one of the best hot tips back in the day in those same years, was Monday night was free. And Monday night was where all the comedians would go try out their new material. So on a given Monday night, in the big room, you'd have who's hot then? Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, Seinfeld, Eddie Murphy doing all his raw act. They all would get up, all the legends. So that's where I connected with him, actually, was at the Comedy Store. And he came up to me, which was neat, and so I was a big fan eventually of him. But we kind of met pretty soon after the show was done, but never actually.
So when you were on set, was there just filming your scenes where you're supposed to be reacting to your conscience? The other comedian was just saying his lines off set so you could hear them and react to them?
Yep, that's right. That's it. And again, like the technical, remembering that the technical requirements of the performance was almost the hardest part of it, in that once the camera was sort of like set up and the shot was set, you had to kind of do all of your histrionics within that frame. Right. Because they had to keep that ear, whenever the conscience was talking, you'll notice the ear is always in the shot.
Right.
So it started becoming very, that was probably maybe the more challenging, as it seems, just to kind of be still and yet be crazy and jam Q-tips in my ear and go nuts,
Q-tips in the, in the ear.
I had these balsa wood Q-tips, right, that would break, the ones, and they literally put in an ear, like, protector. There was a lot of ear makeup going on, obviously. So I had a whole fake ear at one point, and then for those scenes, they literally put something in there that couldn't be pressed against, so I could jam stuff in there. It was intense, but I had no problem with it. And a lot of it too is just miming and controlling the object and getting it right up there. They can't see if your fist is right up against, whatever it was, But but it's, to this day, I mean, it's still kind of freaky, like the thought of jamming a hot, sharp pencil, or that way they did that kind of rack focus to my eyes and my craziness from the sharp tip of the pencil. It was neat. It's a neat filmmaking, The guys that wrote Roger Rabbit, the guys that went on to do like Doc Hollywood and a bunch of other writing and stuff, really cool dudes that basically gave me my shot, plucked me from obscurity, if you will.
Did you watch Tales from the Crypt at all after you were part of the show?
Yeah. I mean, I did, actually. I mean, I think I watched a few of them. Like I said, I don't think I had the HBO at the time, like at my tiny, bachelor crash pad or wherever I was back then. But, I mean, I remember the Rickles one, the Demi Moore. I remember a number of them, But again, it's like one of those things where once I was a part of it, it was a good one. It felt good. I'd run into John Cassier all the time.
Tales from the Crypt obviously had a big influence on your career then, just from what you've said.
Well, I mean, I've never really had like the bounce from any job, that is the dream bounce where it's like, but it gets you on the map. And it connects you with the fans more than it does. I mean, I think that's sort of like the thing about my career is that, I mean, with all the stuff I did as a character guy, it's hard to get that kind of super love from Hollywood. It might take a number of years to get discovered overnight by Hollywood, but the fans kind of pick up on it earlier. And it's all, for somebody like me, it's all about the connecting the dots in my career, right? Like, to realize that guy from Tales of the Crypt then did Seinfeld and then went on and did a bunch of Freaked or, these other obscure kind of Dungeons and Dragons, and then ends up in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? And now, luckily, for the last 4 seasons, I've been doing Once Upon a Time. So, I definitely feel that the fans for sure start connecting the dots, but a lot of times even with the rabid young fans of Once Upon a Time, they don't make the connection to Pirates. And at first I was like, that was so weird. But then I was like, you know what? I take that as a compliment. That's a real cool compliment, It's about my chops or about blah, 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 however you want to spin it. But it's true, So I'm still working on that. I'm still working on getting to be an it kind of character guy in this town. And, it's always good to have something to work for.
I always wanted to play guitar, but I could never quite master the fingering. So I won't be a rock star. I'll just have to settle for being a shock star. My groupies. Tonight's little riff is rife with sex, death, and rock and roll. Now that's entertainment. You'll meet a putrefied promoter of pop with an ear for a hit. I don't want to kill it for you. Let's just say we come into the story just when his career is getting real hot.
All right, so the second episode we're talking about is for Cryin Out Loud. It aired May 22nd, 1990. It's directed by Jeffrey Price, written by Jeffrey Price, stars Lee Arenberg, Katie Seagal, and Iggy Pop playing himself and just kind of doing his whole Iggy Pop thing. Yeah, right? He's not playing a radio DJ at a roller skating rink like he did in the acclaimed film Nickelodeon classic Snow Day. Yes, that's a thing. I don't know why it's a thing, but Iggy Pop is in that movie, along with everyone's favorite Fletch, Chevy Chase. The episode stars Lee Arenberg as a greedy rock promoter who tries to steal the money he raised at a benefit concert when his conscience intervenes. And I guess we should have mentioned who plays his conscience. None other than everyone's favorite screaming comedian, Sam Kinison, the late, great Sam Kinison. So, Mike, what did you think of this episode of Tales from the Crypt that's essentially the Telltale Heart?
Yeah, isn't it?
It is. It just pretty much is just the Telltale Heart.
We'll start from the top here. This is, again, it's not an adaptation of A Tales from the Crypt. This is another shock suspense story number 15. This one was actually written by Otto Binder, and it was drawn originally by Reed Crandall. I remember watching it and liking it initially when I was, many, many years younger. And I liked it again watching it. I constantly have this problem where when you watch episodes back to back, they always seem either better or worse in comparison to the previous one. So I think I might have liked this one more than I would have initially if it weren't on the heels of The Sacrifice. But having said that, I do like this one. Lee Arenberg's performance alone is really fantastic, and it has one of the best opening scenes for any Tales from the Crypt, where it's on death row. And his character is being led to the electric chair, but he can't be led because he's so excited to get in the goddamn chair and be fried. I thought that was pretty goddamn funny. I think the humor in it is really good. Like you mentioned that it was was directed by Peter Seaman, right? Or was it Jeffrey Price? Directed by Jeffrey Price, but it was written by Jeff Price and Peter Seaman, who co-wrote together Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is kind of a perfect movie. Overall, I really like this episode, and I don't know. It doesn't really, for me, hold up on repeat viewings, just because once you know what's going on, you're kind of like you can see how obvious that they're sort of concealing things. But overall, I enjoyed it. How about you?
Yeah, it's one of those episodes, like you said, where I remember really liking it, and Lee Arenberg is the best part of this episode. Katie Seagal is essentially given nothing to do other than to be kind of a bait and switch. And, okay, look, Katie Seagal is a beautiful woman. No one is going to doubt that, but, like, her trying to pass as, like, an accountant, like...
Oh, no.
The episode trying to pull one over on you like that, it ruins the episode the more times you watch it. Right? Because it's kind of goofy. Because you're like, it's his accountant? It's like, oh my God, fine, whatever. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, do you buy her more as a rock chick than as a banker?
Yes, I do. And that's because it's Katie Seagal, and I know her as, the character she plays on Futurama, Married with Children. I mean, she's not a stodgy banker. That's never a character she's ever played, ever in any.
That doesn't mean she can't be one.
Mrs. Kielbasa.
Okay, yeah.
Of all the things.
I know. What was going on there?
Right. It's Kielbasa is apparently the name, but the way Lee Arenberg says it sounds like Kielbasa.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea for an episode, but it pretty much is just the Telltale Heart. Like,
it is
to a fault almost.
Yeah, in the original comic, it is this story. The episode we watched, it's he's a rock promoter and he's putting on a rainforest benefit and he's raised $1 million and he's going to run away with that money. And it's all pretty self-contained, like a bottle episode. It all takes place at the club essentially. Except for the wraparound. In the original comic, there was none of that. The guy had just either come into the money or somehow swindled the money, and this girl shows up and wants it. And in the sort of ensuing fight where he kills her, she scratched his face. And then his conscience kicked in and started talking to him. And as he was going around through the city, people kept giving him crazy looks. And he thought it was because they could hear the conscience talking, but it wasn't. It was the fact that they were looking at the fact that his face was gouged open. So it's essentially the basic premise. I will say that I'm glad they went with what they went with. This is one of those episodes where they actually took the material and went, let's do something else, which is always welcome. And but let's talk Sam Kinison for a sec.
Yeah, because Sam Kinison is, outside of Lee Arenberg, is the second best part of this episode. And look, there are people that don't like Sam Kinison's act. And you know what? I completely get it, because Sam Kinison's act, in my mind, is best in small doses, because it does become a little bit much. In my mind, Sam Kinison is Bill Hicks with 50% less of kind of the introspection that Bill Hicks had. And that's kind of always the way I saw Sam Kinison. And there is a time and place for a comedian who is an angry comedian, because Sam Kinison is the stereotypical angry comedian. And I do like Sam Kinison's act. I think he's great in this, but yeah, small doses is the way to absorb Sam Kinison. Unless he is your thing and you love him and he is your favorite, then I get it. But for me, small doses.
I'm right there with you. I think his act could have moments of little pockets of brilliance. But overall, the less the better. I think it's a really impactful act when you're getting a 15-minute set, but if you have to listen to him for an hour, it's just wearying, and the sort of the cracks begin to show. But I liked him here. I couldn't imagine a more perfect role than a nagging conscience for him to play. I think it was a really good part of the episode.
And, look, I grew up in the mid-90s. I was born in 1990, so I didn't see Sam Kinison's act until, much later. But did he, in your mind, have a big influence on comedy as a whole? Because I kind of don't understand if he did.
I think it was one of those things where there hadn't been anyone like him. And I don't mean there hadn't been anyone like him in a long time. It felt like this type of comedian had never been on the scene, the sort of ragingly angry comedian. I mean, there had been plenty of angry comedians throughout history, but no one as straightforward furious.
Right.
And I don't know. I remember being off-put by it at the time.
Sometimes less is more, and in comedy, my favorite comedian of all time, period, is George Carlin. And Carlin,
you can't get more cerebral than Carlin.
Right, and in my mind, it's because Carlin brought out the most cerebral nature of comedy while also being completely and utterly foul-mouthed, but not being foul for foul's sake. There are comedians who just, say fuck, 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 shit, fuck, fuck, cunt, piss, motherfucker, shit, tits. And that's fine. But Carlin did it with a purpose. He wasn't Andrew Dice Clay, who is absolutely one of the worst comedians ever.
Yeah, and at the time, that was sort of the two reigning voices in comedy seemed to be Andrew Dice Clay and Sam Kinison.
Hey,
and
call him Dice to his friends. Dice.
Oh yeah. At the time, I was I was into like Stephen Wright. And even Emo Phillips I was into, which puts me on the complete opposite end of that particular spectrum. Although, sort of crazy and raging can work too, because I was also a big fan of a fellow in a future episode named Bob Goldthwait. But they all seemed a little more on the ball. They all seemed like they had something to say. Sam Kinison always came off to me as sort of rage for rage's sake, Like,
when he had a voice for it, that's the one thing you got to give him credit for.
He sure did. And you know what? Maybe it was a breath of fresh air, because there hadn't been anything like that. It's just, it didn't go anywhere. And to actually answer your question, no, I don't think he had as big an influence as people thought it was going to be, just because it was such a singular persona. Like, he wasn't backing it up with, any particular deep thoughts or anything. He wasn't coming at comedy from any new, interesting angle. It was just screaming. I mean, I guess Lewis Black technically, is apoplectic these days, but I don't think there was any influence there. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Well, and the thing is, you can have a singular persona. You have someone like Robin Williams, who is a singular persona. There's really hasn't been anyone else like him. And in my mind, you can be a singular persona, but I just don't see what, I don't know. I like Sam Kinison in this episode, but,
Yeah, look, he's perfect in this role. There's no question about it. But let's talk Lee Arenberg, who is perfect in this role. He's great. An actor I've always sort of enjoyed every time he comes on screen. We've talked in the past. He's the Human Torch in Freaked. He's in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's real good in those. One of my earliest sort of times I saw him, he's in a movie called Roadside Prophets, directed by Abby Wool. He's in it for about 2 seconds, but for 2 seconds he's really memorable. Good, solid actor, and I don't know that this episode would have been as successful if he hadn't been in it. Like, occasionally you get an actor who gets the tone as well as anyone possibly could have. And I think that he does, man. And, not to mention his acting style, but he is sort of saddled with having to act to one side very technically, so we don't reveal the sort of twist. So it's an interesting balancing act to watch, where he's not only having to be super technical, but he also has to come up to this level that the episode is trying to achieve. And I think if it does work at all, it's because of him. I'm sure most people just remember Sam Kinison screaming the entire time, but Lee Arenberg makes me laugh every time I watch it. In fact, occasionally when somebody says I can't hear you, I hear it as Lee Arenberg. I can't hear you. I don't know. That's my whole life. So I'm gonna say this is a successful episode just based on the fact that it's stuck in my head all these years.
But you're right. Lee Arenberg is, God, he's just, it's unfortunate that he's known for one thing now that doesn't really give him a whole lot to do. Hello, puppet. Okay. Fine.
Right.
Shit, man. God damn it. That's, if you say that, people will be like, oh yeah, that guy. But it's, man, the Human Torch from, or is it the Eternal Flame? What is he?
The Eternal Flame.
The Eternal Flame and Freaked is what I will always remember him as, and that's how I initially spoke with him, and then I had to ask him about Tales, but it was initially for Freaked, because that movie is probably my favorite movie ever, but what am I going to do? Say my favorite movie is Freaked, and people just go, oh, fuck are you talking about? But that's what Lee Arenberg to me is, the Eternal Flame from Freaked, and he's just a great actor, and I always think about him in this episode because he is the glue that keeps this episode together when it could have fallen apart or felt just flat like a, Telltale Heart ripoff. Mm-hmm. And he makes it not feel that way. So for me, this episode, total watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Go watch this one. It's fun, ultimately. Very few of the comedic episodes sort of hit the comedic tone. This one kind of does it right from the get-go. By the way, enough with Iggy Pop. Stop doing that.
Oh, Iggy Pop looks like a total clown in this episode with his like short bowl cut hair. Man, not the Iggy Pop that I want to think about when I think of Iggy Pop.
Yeah, man. I mean, cash that check, Iggy.
Yeah, Iggy's doing the Iggy thing, but the Iggy thing ain't working in 1990 right now.
Yeah,
It looks just kind of like old man on stage, Iggy Pop. And now he's still doing it 28 years later.
Yeah, it's like trotting Sha-Na-Na out or something.
Yeah. But on the next episode, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 9 and 10, Four-Sided Triangle. I bet you can guess what that episode's about. And the ventriloquist dummy featuring the aforementioned Bobcat Goldthwait. Until then, however, where can people find you, Father Malone?
Well, other than here, you can find me on YouTube at my channel Ot5 Films. I've got a show called You've Never Seen, chronicling some of these movies that you maybe have not seen, and you probably ought to. And you can also catch me on another podcast called Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast, where me and a couple of kooks talk about the revival of the Twilight Zone that happened in the mid-'80s, and you should check that out because it's a great podcast about a great series.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Culture Stash. And if you want to hear me talk about movies, not TV shows, you can head on over to culturecast.com, where that's my movie podcast, where me and my buddy Eric talk about movies. We have some guests on from time to time. Aforementioned Father Malone is on there. We talk about movies, and I'm also on a Kolchak the Night Stalker podcast called The Kolchak Tapes with my buddy Mike White, where we talk about one episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker once a month. So you should check those out. Until then, big thanks as always to John Kassir for that kick-ass intro, and we will catch you on the next episode.